Alex Carter's phone buzzed again, its screen flashing with a notification from his bank. His stomach churned as he unlocked it. Account frozen due to irregular activity, the message read. Alex's mind raced. This couldn't be happening. He had built his business from the ground up, carefully balancing every deal, every financial decision. It was his entire life. He dialed the number, his fingers trembling. The line rang several times before a calm, distant voice answered. "Bank of Liberty, how can I assist you?" the representative asked. Alex replied quickly, "I just received a notice about my account being frozen." "What's going on?" "I'm afraid I can't give you details over the phone. Please visit your nearest branch for more information." The voice responded coldly before hanging up. A rush of panic surged through Alex's chest as he looked at the message again. This wasn't just a glitch or an error. It felt deliberate, like someone was targeting him. What if this was the end? His financial foundation, built on years of careful strategy, was crumbling before his eyes. He needed answers. Fast. Alex stood outside the bank's branch, the early morning sun glaring down on the glass doors. The bustling city felt distant, muted, as if the world outside continued in oblivion to his personal catastrophe. His heart raced as he pushed through the door, the cold air of the building greeting him like a slap in the face. He approached the receptionist, his voice barely steady as he spoke. "I received a notification that my account has been frozen. Can you help me with that?" The receptionist, a woman in her 40s with a professional demeanor, looked at him for a moment, then calmly replied, "I'm afraid I cannot assist you without verification of your identity. Please take a seat. Someone will be with you shortly." Alex's frustration surged. He didn't have time to wait, but the quiet authority in her voice suggested this was the process. He took a seat, his hands now clenched tightly, his mind spinning with questions. Why was his account frozen? Who was behind this? He couldn't shake the feeling that someone close to him, was pulling the strings. The last few days had felt like an overwhelming storm of confusion, and he was just trying to stay afloat. Alex's patience was wearing thin as he sat in the sterile waiting area, surrounded by soft murmurs and the occasional rustling of papers. His mind kept drifting back to the previous call. Why would the bank freeze his account? He knew his financial history was clean, his business was thriving. His phone buzzed again, but it wasn't the bank. This time, it was Martin Wells, his mentor. "Alex, I've been hearing some troubling rumors about the Bank of Liberty. I'm not sure how, but it seems like you've gotten caught in something bigger." "Be careful," Martin warned, his voice low and serious. "What are you talking about? My account's frozen, Martin." "I don't even know what's happening," Alex replied, his frustration spilling over. "I don't have all the details, but the way the bank's been handling things, it's not just you. It's a larger game they're playing. Trust me, Alex, they've got some heavy players behind them. Get a lawyer, now." The call ended abruptly. Alex sat there, his mind racing. Martin wasn't usually one for paranoia, but his warning was clear. Was this just a mistake, or something more? Alex stood up suddenly, the phone still pressed to his ear. Martin's warning echoed in his mind. He couldn't sit here waiting for answers that might never come. As he walked toward the bank's manager's office, his thoughts raced. He needed to confront them. The stakes were higher than ever now. Alex's life and career were being held hostage by a cold, faceless system, and he wasn't about to back down. He knocked on the manager's door, his hand clenched into a fist. "Come in," a calm voice answered from the other side. He opened the door and stepped inside. The manager, Sarah Evans, was sitting behind a large mahogany desk, her expression unreadable. "I need answers. My account was frozen, and no one's telling me why. I want to know who's responsible for this," Alex demanded, his voice tight with tension. Sarah's eyes met his. She didn't flinch. Instead, she said, "Mr. Carter, I understand your frustration, but I can't disclose details without proper procedures being followed. If you'd like, I can schedule an appointment for you to meet with our financial director." Alex's jaw tightened. It wasn't the answer he wanted to hear, but it was the answer he was getting. This isn't over, he thought, as he walked out, his mind already planning the next step in his battle. Alex walked out of the building, the weight of the conversation still lingering in his chest. He couldn't believe how calmly Sarah had deflected his questions. There was something off about the way she spoke, as if she knew more than she was letting on. He pulled out his phone again and called John Miller, his trusted business partner. He needed someone to back him up, someone to help him understand this mess. "John, I need you to come with me to the bank. There's something shady going on, and I can't figure it out alone," Alex said, urgency creeping into his voice. Hold on. You're telling me that you're having problems with the bank?" John's voice was calm, but there was something behind it, something that Alex couldn't quite place. "All right, I'll meet you there. Just don't make any hasty decisions. We'll figure it out." The call ended, and Alex stood there for a moment, staring at the bank's facade. It was hard to shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of something much bigger. What if John knew more than he was letting on? What if his partner had something to do with this? A knot tightened in Alex's stomach as the uncertainty began to take root. The next few days were a blur of frustration and confusion. Alex spent countless hours trying to reach the bank's financial director, only to be met with empty promises and unanswered calls. Each attempt made him feel more isolated. His once thriving business now felt like a fragile house of cards. He sat in his office late one evening, staring at the blank screen of his computer, the silence broken only by the ticking of a nearby clock. How did it all come to this? He leaned back in his chair, running a hand through his hair. Flashbacks of his rise from a struggling entrepreneur to a successful business owner swirled in his mind. He had fought for every penny, every deal, every contract. Yet, now it felt as if someone had stolen his future from him. His phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from Rachel. "Dinner at 7?" it read. Alex sighed, feeling the weight of his personal life pulling him in two directions. Rachel was supportive, but she didn't understand the magnitude of what he was up against. She had her own pressures, family, bills, their home, but none of it seemed as big as this looming financial disaster. But who could help him now? No one seemed to have the answers, and trust was becoming harder to find. The next morning, Alex met with Kelly Bonds, a sharp lawyer he had hired to help navigate this financial nightmare. Kelly was in her mid-40s, confident and well-versed in the intricacies of corporate law. She listened as Alex explained the situation, his voice growing more desperate as he spoke. "Alex, we need to act fast," Kelly said, her voice calm but urgent. "The bank's freezing your account for a reason, and it's not just a simple mistake. There's something much larger going on behind the scenes." Alex nodded, trying to process her words. "What can we do? We're going to demand answers. If they won't cooperate, we'll take legal action. But I need to know everything you've got on them. Anything that could give us leverage." "I can't promise success, but we have to start somewhere," Kelly replied. As Alex left her office, a sense of dread settled in his stomach. He was about to wage a battle he never imagined would be his own. Could he really trust Kelly? Was she just another person who might let him down? The uncertainty was overwhelming, but there was no turning back now. That evening, Alex returned home, hoping for a sense of normalcy. But Rachel could see the strain in his eyes. She was sitting at the kitchen table, a glass of wine in hand. "Alex, what's going on? You've been distant for days," she asked, her voice tinged with concern. Alex sighed, sitting down across from her. He ran his fingers through his hair again, the exhaustion evident in every movement. "I don't know how to explain it, Rachel. The bank froze my account. It's not just a glitch. Something bigger is happening, and I can't figure out what it is." Rachel placed the glass down gently. "You need to tell me everything. We're in this together, right?" Alex hesitated, torn between his desire to protect her and the overwhelming pressure of his situation. "I don't want to drag you into this. It's too much. But I need help. I don't know who else to turn to." Rachel reached across the table, taking his hand in hers. "We're a team. Whatever this is, we'll figure it out together. I'm not going anywhere." Alex's heart swelled with gratitude, but a wave of guilt followed. He wasn't sure he could win this battle. And if he didn't, what would that mean for Rachel? The following morning, Alex met with Martin again. Martin had always been the one person who could offer advice without hesitation, but today his expression was clouded with something new, doubt. "You need to be careful, Alex. I've been hearing whispers, people talking about the Bank of Liberty's dealings. This isn't just a coincidence. They're part of something much bigger than you," Martin warned, his voice barely above a whisper. "What do you mean? You're saying this is some kind of conspiracy?" Alex asked, his voice rising with frustration. "I'm not saying that directly, but I've seen the patterns. Banks don't freeze accounts unless there's a reason. You're being targeted, and I'm not sure who's behind it." Alex stood up, pacing. "I don't have time for cryptic advice, Martin. I need facts, something concrete. Get your lawyer to look into the bank's practices." "You'll find something," Martin replied, his voice firm. Alex left the meeting with a growing sense of unease. Was Martin right? Was he just a pawn in a much larger game? Alex couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger was happening. Every day, the walls seemed to close in. He had started going through his financial documents again, looking for anything that could explain the bank's sudden move. He was no closer to an answer when he found it, hidden in plain sight. A strange series of transactions, linked to an offshore account. They weren't his. His heart dropped. "John, what have you done?" he muttered under his breath. Alex immediately called John Miller, his business partner, demanding answers. But the call went straight to voicemail. His mind raced. He needed to know if John had been involved in this. Was John connected to the bank? What was really going on behind the scenes? Alex's heart raced as he went through the financial documents again. The strange series of offshore transactions, buried deep within the bank's records, seemed to connect directly to his business partner, John Miller. Alex couldn't believe his eyes. The amounts were significant, far beyond what John had ever told him about. Had he been siphoning money off the business? His mind spun with the implications. John, the person he had trusted most in his business, the one who had been his right-hand man, now appeared to be deeply involved in some kind of financial scheme. He needed answers, and fast. Alex's hand trembled as he picked up the phone and dialed John's number again. This time, it rang once, twice, and then went to voicemail. "John, I know what you've been doing. Call me," Alex said, his voice tight with a mix of anger and disbelief. He hung up the phone, staring at the screen, unsure of his next move. But deep down, Alex knew this wasn't just about the bank freezing his account anymore. There was a much darker game at play, one where he was just a pawn. The question now was, what would he do with the power he still held? And could he still trust the people around him? Alex couldn't wait any longer. He had to confront John. As much as he wanted to avoid it, he knew that trust had already been shattered. He stood up from his desk and walked to the door of his office, determination in his step. As he walked through the office building's hallway, the weight of what he had discovered gnawed at him. He had built his business on integrity, but now he was staring at the dark side of it all. When Alex finally met with John, the tension between them was palpable. John looked different, his usual confident demeanor replaced with something far more guarded. He wasn't meeting Alex's eyes, and that alone spoke volumes. "I don't know what you're talking about, Alex," John said, avoiding the direct confrontation. But Alex was done with games. "The offshore accounts, John. I saw the transactions. You've been siphoning off money from the business. What the hell is going on?" John hesitated, a brief flash of guilt crossing his face. "It's not what you think, Alex. This wasn't supposed to happen. I had no choice." Alex's stomach churned as he realized how deep the betrayal ran. What had started as a minor concern now felt like a full-fledged disaster. But John's next words would reveal even more. John's confession hung in the air like a weight. He had been using the company's finances to cover personal losses, investing in high-risk ventures without Alex's knowledge. "I tried to cover it up, but it all spiraled out of control. The offshore accounts, they were my last attempt to fix everything. But it's too late now, Alex, John admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Alex felt the ground shift beneath him. You were gambling with my business's future, John. How could you do this? We were supposed to be in this together. I never meant for it to go this far. I thought I could fix it, John pleaded. But Alex wasn't listening anymore. I don't care about your excuses. You've stolen from me, John, and now you're going to pay for it. The weight of the betrayal hit Alex like a physical blow. He had trusted John, trusted him with everything. The anger, the hurt, it was all too much. But this wasn't the time for emotion. Alex needed a plan, and the first step was making sure John couldn't get away with this. Alex left the meeting feeling numb. He knew that confronting John was only the beginning. The real battle would be in how he chose to proceed. He couldn't let John off the hook, but he also couldn't let the bank get away with what they had done to him. He needed leverage, and he needed it fast. Later that evening, Alex sat down with his lawyer, Kelly Barnes, to map out the next steps. We've got the evidence we need now. John's confession, the offshore transactions. We can bring this to the authorities, Kelly suggested, her voice sharp and focused. But I need more, Alex replied, his tone resolute. I need the truth behind the bank's involvement. Someone had to help John set this up, and I need to know who. Kelly nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. I'll dig deeper into the bank's connections. This is bigger than just you, Alex. We're going to expose everything. With Kelly on his side, Alex felt a renewed sense of determination. He wasn't going to let the bank or John ruin him. It was time to fight back. The next day, Alex received an anonymous email with crucial information. Documents outlining a covert connection between the bank and several high-level investors who had been manipulating the market. The evidence was damning. Alex stared at the screen, his heart racing as the pieces of the puzzle finally began to fall into place. This is it, Alex whispered to himself. He had the leverage he needed. The bank's manipulation was even worse than he had imagined. This wasn't just about his account being frozen. It was about an entire financial network operating under the radar. And now, Alex had a chance to take them down. He forwarded the email to Kelly, who quickly replied with a plan to contact the authorities. We've got them now, Alex. This is our chance to bring them down, she wrote. But even as Alex felt a sense of victory, he knew there was still much to be done. The battle was far from over, but with the truth finally in his hands, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. The evening was still, as Alex sat in his office, the weight of what he had discovered pressing heavily on his chest. He had spent hours combing through the documents sent by the anonymous source. As he pieced together the web of financial deceit, a chilling realization set in. John Miller wasn't just a rogue partner. The Bank of Liberty, was complicit in everything. It wasn't just an isolated act of betrayal. It was a systematic attempt to drain his company's resources, orchestrated by the very institution that had frozen his account. Alex stared at the documents in disbelief. The level of manipulation was staggering. He picked up his phone and dialed Kelly. You need to see this. It's bigger than we thought. The bank wasn't just involved. They were the ones who set this up. I've got evidence. Proof that they were working with John. His voice was tight with both shock and anger. Kelly's response was swift, urgent. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Don't do anything rash. Alex took a deep breath. This was the moment he had been waiting for. But now that the truth was out, he felt a sense of dread. What would they do next? He had the evidence, but exposing it could bring consequences he wasn't ready to face. Kelly arrived 20 minutes later, her face hard with resolve as she stepped into Alex's office. He immediately pointed to the stack of papers. Look at this. The bank wasn't just complicit. They were orchestrating this from the top. John wasn't acting alone. Kelly flipped through the documents quickly, her eyes narrowing as she connected the dots. This is what I've been afraid of. The bank has been funneling money through a network of shell companies, using your business as a front for laundering funds. Alex's heart sank as the full scale of the operation became clearer. This wasn't just a betrayal, it was a conspiracy. We have to expose this. The world needs to know what they're doing. But we have to be careful, Kelly warned. If we go public with this, the repercussions could be catastrophic. The people involved are too powerful. Alex nodded. He knew Kelly was right. He had no idea how deep this went, or who else was involved. But one thing was certain, he couldn't let this continue. He had to fight back. The following day, Alex and Kelly went to meet with a financial expert, Mark Donovan, who specialized in uncovering corporate fraud. Mark, a man in his late 40s, had a reputation for being thorough and unflinching. As they laid out the evidence for him, Mark's face grew darker with each passing moment. "This is bad," Mark said, his voice low. "What you're dealing with isn't just corporate theft, it's a sophisticated money laundering operation. If this gets out, it will take down the entire bank." Alex's mind raced. "Can we prove it?" Mark leaned back in his chair, rubbing his chin. "It won't be easy. You've got some solid evidence, but you'll need more to take them down. And you'll need to be prepared for the fallout." Kelly added, "We're prepared. We have to make this public. We have no choice." Mark nodded slowly. "I'll help you with the next steps, but you need to move carefully. The people involved here won't go down without a fight." As the days passed, Alex's sense of urgency grew. The truth was now undeniable, but it felt like the clock was ticking. He knew the risks of exposing the bank's involvement, but he couldn't sit idly by. He had a responsibility to his employees, his family, and himself. One evening, as he was reviewing the evidence again, his phone buzzed. It was a message from Rachel. "I've been hearing rumors. People are talking about you, about your company. Are you okay?" Alex paused. The weight of the situation had begun to affect not just him, but the people he loved. "I'm fine," he typed back, though he knew it was a lie. "I'll explain everything soon. Just trust me." But the fear in Rachel's voice, the concern in her messages, it hit Alex hard. Could he really go through with this? Could he put his family in danger for the sake of exposing the truth? As much as he wanted to protect them, he knew he couldn't let fear dictate his next move. The following morning, Alex made his decision. He couldn't live in the shadows of fear anymore. He called Kelly, his voice steady but determined. "We're going public. Let's expose them. Let's take the fight to the press." Kelly's response was firm. "It's dangerous, Alex. But I understand. We've got the evidence. It's time." As Alex hung up the phone, he felt a sense of calm wash over him. For the first time in weeks, he knew exactly what he had to do. He couldn't back down now. The truth had to be told, no matter the cost. Alex stood up, walked to the window of his office, and looked out at the city below. The world felt both small and overwhelming at that moment. But he was no longer afraid. He was ready to face whatever came next. The day of the big meeting arrived. Alex's heart pounded in his chest as he stood in the boardroom of the Bank of Liberty's headquarters. Everything he had fought for, everything he had uncovered, was leading to this moment. The room was stark and cold, dominated by long glass tables, polished to a mirror finish. As Alex looked across the table, the faces of the bank's executives stared back at him, all poised and untouchable. The tension was palpable. "Mr. Carter, I'm sure you realize how serious these allegations are," said Thomas Reeve, the bank's CEO, his voice smooth but with an undercurrent of warning. "We are prepared to defend ourselves vigorously." Alex didn't flinch. "I have evidence, Thomas. Hard proof of everything you've been doing, manipulating accounts, laundering money, funneling it through a network of shell companies. This isn't just a mistake. It's a crime." Reeves' eyes narrowed. "You can't prove anything. We've been very careful. You'll never get past the legal teams we've put in place." "I already have, and I'm taking this to the authorities. The press, it's over," Alex said firmly, his voice unwavering. The storm that had been building inside him finally erupted, and for the first time he felt in control. He was no longer the pawn in this game. Now, he was the one making the moves. As the confrontation grew more intense, Alex felt the weight of his next words. He had done everything he could to gather the evidence, but now, in front of the bank's elite, it all came down to what they would do next. The air between them felt thick with challenge. "You don't get to decide what happens next," Alex continued, his voice steady. "The people you've hurt deserve justice, and I'm going to make sure they get it. No more hiding behind legal jargon. No more games." Reeve leaned back in his chair, his lips curling into a smile. "You're bold, I'll give you that. But do you really think you can take down an institution like this? You have no idea what you're up against. You've already gone too far. I've gone as far as I need to." Alex shot back. "You may have power, but I have the truth. And the truth is far stronger than anything you can do to stop me." The silence that followed was heavy. For a moment, Alex thought Reeve would retaliate, but instead, he simply stared at Alex, as if weighing his next move. Alex stood his ground. This was it. There was no turning back now. As the hours ticked by, the confrontation reached its breaking point. Alex knew that exposing the full extent of the corruption would come at a price, but he couldn't afford to back down. He was no longer just fighting for his own survival. He was fighting for the thousands of people who had been wronged by the bank. Suddenly, his phone buzzed. It was Kelly, his lawyer. He read the message, his pulse quickening. "I've got confirmation from the authorities. They're moving in on the bank." Alex couldn't believe it. The authorities were on his side now, and this was no longer just a fight for justice. It was a battle for survival. "I have nothing to lose, Thomas," Alex said, his voice rising with renewed conviction. "You've pushed me to the edge, but I will bring this down. You're going to pay for what you've done." Reeve's face turned dark. "This isn't over," he muttered. But Alex knew it was. The dominoes were falling, and nothing could stop them now. The truth would come out, and the bank's empire would crumble. The moment Alex left the boardroom, he felt a sense of relief wash over him, though it was quickly replaced by the heavy burden of what still lay ahead. The authorities were moving in, but the real battle wasn't over yet. As Alex walked out of the building, the weight of his decision pressed on him. He hadn't just exposed a corrupt bank. He had made enemies who would stop at nothing to tear him down. His phone buzzed again. It was Rachel. "You did it, Alex. You brought them down. I'm so proud of you." But Alex wasn't sure how to feel. He had won this round, but he knew there would be more battles ahead. The financial world was unforgiving, and now that he had stirred the hornet's nest, he couldn't predict what would happen next. Still, he was ready. He had nothing to lose, and everything to gain. He stood at the entrance of the building, looking out at the city, realizing for the first time in years that his fight was far from over. But for the first time, he also knew he had the strength to win. Days passed, and the media frenzy surrounding the bank scandal reached its peak. Alex had become a symbol of resistance, a beacon for those who had been wronged by the system. The authorities had seized the bank's assets, and several executives had been arrested. John Miller, too, had been implicated, facing charges of fraud and money laundering. But Alex's mind was focused on the future. He had won a battle, but the war was still ongoing. He walked into his office one final time, ready to rebuild. The phone rang. It was Kelly. "The case is closed. You've won. But this doesn't end here. We're going to change the system, Alex." Alex smiled, a sense of relief flooding him. "One step at a time, Kelly. One step at a time." Alex sat in his office, the weight of the battle behind him. The victory over the bank was a triumph, but it came at a cost. The fight had drained him, emotionally and physically. Yet, there was a sense of calm that washed over him. His business had survived, but he had lost trust in the system that once seemed so secure. Now, the real challenge would be rebuilding, not just his company, but his sense of self. "What's next?" he thought. Rachel stepped into the office, her presence grounding Alex. She stood by his side, offering the silent comfort he needed. "We did it, Alex," she said softly. "But we're in this together. You don't have to carry this burden alone." Alex looked up at her, grateful but still uncertain. He knew the road ahead would be difficult, but with Rachel by his side, It seemed a little less daunting. Kelly's message arrived just as Alex was beginning to process everything. Case closed. You've won. The bank's been fully exposed. It's over. The relief was immediate, yet bittersweet. While the legal victory was undeniable, Alex knew that things would never be the same. His phone buzzed again, but this time, it was Rachel. You did it, Alex. Now let's rebuild. The future was uncertain, but Alex finally felt the first flicker of hope. The press conference was a turning point. Alex stood at the podium, the camera flashes lighting up the room. This isn't just my victory, he said. This is for everyone who stood up against the system. The truth is powerful, and it's time for change. His voice echoed in the room, steady and strong, despite the emotional weight. As Alex spoke, he realized that this moment wasn't just about justice. It was about setting a new precedent for accountability. As the press conference concluded, Alex stepped outside the building, the bright sun hitting his face. The weight of the past few months had lifted, and for the first time in a long while, he felt free. The world was still uncertain, but Alex had proven something to himself. He could fight, he could win. And now, with Rachel and his team by his side, he was ready for the future. Alex stood at the podium, the weight of the past weeks heavy on his shoulders. The press cameras flashed as he spoke, his voice steady despite the emotions surging within him. This victory isn't mine alone, he said, looking around the room. It's for anyone who's ever felt powerless in the face of corruption. Together we've made a change. The crowd was silent, hanging on every word. This moment, Alex realized, wasn't just about the battle he'd won. It was about something much bigger. After the press conference, Alex walked down the hallway of his office building, the quiet echo of his footsteps reminding him of how much had changed. The walls, once filled with tension and stress, now felt strangely empty. He passed his old office, remembering the moments of fear and doubt that had haunted him. Now, all that was left was the path forward. He paused, taking a deep breath. The fight wasn't over, but the worst was behind him. Alex stood at the large office window, looking out over the city. The skyline, once a symbol of ambition and success, now seemed like a reminder of everything he had endured. His phone buzzed again. It was a message from Rachel. I'm proud of you, always. A quiet smile crossed his face. In this moment, he knew that despite the challenges, he had done something important. This was the beginning of rebuilding, he thought. The future was his to shape. Rachel joined Alex by the window, her presence a comforting reminder that he wasn't alone. You've changed the world, Alex, she said quietly. But don't forget, you've also changed yourself. Alex nodded, a bittersweet smile on his lips. The road ahead was uncertain, but Rachel's words grounded him. He had lost so much but gained strength in unexpected places. This battle wasn't just for justice. It was for a future where he could trust himself again. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting the world in a soft, fading light. Alex turned away from the window, knowing the hardest battles were yet to come. The future was unknown, but for the first time in a long while, he felt ready. He had survived the storm, and though the road ahead would be difficult, he was no longer afraid. As he looked back at Rachel, he knew one thing for certain: he was no longer fighting alone.